Welcome to the Hawkeye Sidekick podcast. And you're very welcome back to the Hawkeye Sidekick hurling podcast with your host Mark Kennedy, joined again this week by Kieran Collins with a jubilant Ruairi Walsh, and also we're delighted to have Des Mythen on as well, out at the Bala, former Wexford, and also part of the Wexford management team for the seniors this year. Lads, how are things?
Great, Mark.
Yeah, Mark, really good.
Great stuff. I suppose, Ruairi, first off, congratulations on the All Ireland success. And Des, many thanks for coming on. I suppose, Des, from your perspective, how's the year gone for you so far?
Look, it didn't finish off that great against Clare, but I suppose from where we came in regard of being bet by Westmeath and having a bad kind of vibe in Wexford hurling, I suppose towards the end of last year, good after beating Kilkenny to stay out to Joe McDonagh, but we went well in the Walsh Cup, won the Walsh Cup, went pretty well in the league. A couple of Cork was very poor now. Again, Cork, but there was highs and lows the whole year when you had Antrim and especially Dublin as well, 5 points up with 2 minutes left, and then to draw the game and to go up to Antrim and be bet well, like fairly up in Antrim, and then to beat Galway the week after. So it was kind of highs and lows in regard of. I think we heard well in spurts. We heard the same as against Clare that day. Like we, didn't get going for the first half, and towards the end of the first half we did. But the way we were going, you're talking about Rory O'Connor going off, and that's a turning point. But we were only, I'd say, going 67% of our capabilities in that match anyway. So probably wasn't an excuse in a way. Now Clare didn't play near as well as they did last Sunday against Wexford, so. You never know, but we definitely wasn't going as well. But I'd be happy enough in regard of staying in the league. But it's just the missed chances, even against Kilkenny up there in Nolan Park. Like probably had to beaten some in ways. Dublin especially, not against Antrim, they deserved to win. But I think the way for Wexford this year was to get to a Leinster final, and then you'd have the whole hysteria of everybody. Croke Park and filling Croke Park probably in a Leinster final. You have a great chance to win it probably against Dublin. It would have been against Dublin probably. And then you're straight into an All-Ireland semi-final. And that's probably was the best chance for Wexford this year. Whereas, it's like Cork now next year. You're starting at the bottom again. So, when you have them chances that we probably did have, went okay. But, just not getting to a Leinster final maybe is the big thing. Especially with Galway, that we were so poor this year. A huge chance. And that's what Dublin, Dublin took that chance. But look, that's basically synopsis of it, okay, but didn't get going at times in games. I thought even again Offaly in the league, we're going back to up and down. Offaly in the league going well, drew with Clare, drew with Kilkenny, and then to draw with Offaly as well. So it's kind of the weaker teams probably struggling a little bit again.
Great stuff, Des. Great to have you on. I suppose tonight, lads, look, one game, and what a game to finish off the intercounty hurling season. Clare and Cork, Clare securing the All Ireland final in an epic. I suppose, guys, given it's our last intercounty podcast episode of the year, we'll give out a few gongs, I suppose. Team of the year, hurler of the year, young hurler of the year, and get a few highs and lows from the lads on the year that was. I suppose maybe we'll kick off, guys. Maybe Ruairi, being the proud Clare man that you are, you've come on here repeatedly on near miss after near miss, but thinking of you on final whistle. Look, a magnificent game. Clare edging it against Cork. 329 to 134. I suppose, get your thoughts. Have you got your thoughts recollected after such an epic?
Yeah, just about. As you said, like the I suppose at full time, the relief at full time after extra time, because full time and normal time, I really thought Clare were in trouble because in the way that they should have put the game to bed in the second half. Each time they went up 3 points, they had a chance to maybe kill the game, but couldn't, and that's probably credit to Cork as well. They responded every time. The only thing was they didn't let Cork get ahead of them again, during that spell. They kept kind of, when Cork got back level, Clare tipped it back out again, and just that injury time probably lost the head a small bit. A few silly frees from the forwards, just heaped pressure back on the backs. Anything can happen in those situations, as we know. But in extra time, I thought, they showed great kind of composure is the word, especially young lads that had to come in. Like, they were down to the bare bones. And what worked well for them overall was during the league, when Clare had big injuries, the likes of Keane Galvin and Conor Lean, especially, who nailed down a starting place. A lot of these guys got game time and been thrown in there in All Ireland final. Then, you know, they had experience maybe of playing the league final. I know it's no comparison, but it's still better than just being thrown in all of a sudden. And I just thought, like, those guys, especially, like, heads up, found men. And if anything, it was one or two of the more experienced players who were just kind of, at that stage, panicking a small bit and hitting the ball away. So, look, that was a factor, I thought, that these boys came in, and especially King Galvin, he played 2 or 3 great balls up, found players each time when Clare needed to, you know, find men at that stage with Cork coming back at them. Look, it takes everything to get over the line, and there's, in a game like that that's so tight, it's just one little flick here, or, you know, a little tug of a jersey there, but like all those things, you need that bit of luck in a tight game, and thankfully it came to Clare's side, because we've lost these tight games in the past, and it was just nice to be at the right side of it for once at the end.
Kieran, get you in there, I suppose. Can we look at the opening half? I mean, Cork started like a house on fire here. There was no wide within 15 minutes. The Robert Downey goal, a goal for the ages. I mean, it looked pretty ominous for Clare early on, but I mean, sign of champions, they stemmed the flow and put the punches back in with a vengeance.
Definitely, Mark. Yeah, like the first 9 shots, did 1-8 on the board, you know, which is, it's phenomenal scoring. I think Clare looked at 6s and 7s, but I think credit to Clare, they got themselves back in it, and fairly quickly too. You know, I suppose the goal was the catalyst to the comeback, but I suppose looking back on the year, it's not the first time Clare have been in that situation where they've had to, you know, claw back a lead. You didn't have to look too far back to semi-final against Kilkenny, where they had that, you know, 5 or 6 point deficit to claw back. And I suppose one sign of it is they didn't panic. You know, I suppose Clare have dogged out a lot of games this year, but at any stage have they panicked. You know, I think we've probably criticised Clare, myself especially, on not putting 70 minutes together this year. And I suppose you could probably continue that trend into the final. Like, they didn't start well the first 10-15 minutes. You know, Cork were in complete control. But from then on, you know, Clare turned it on. They were exceptional. I think for me, I suppose just I look, it's a big part of the game now, and I suppose I'm going to throw a few stats at you. It's puckouts wise, like, it's something that Cork targeted against Limerick with huge success. Cork against Limerick won 61% of their own puckouts, but against Clare they only won 40. And I think Clare had the upper hand on Cork on there. Clare won 60%, scoring 3-8 from their own puckouts, which is huge. You compare that to Cork, where they scored 7 off their own, and they conceded 9 points. So I think that was probably the winning and losing of the game for Cork. It's such a huge thing that I suppose it was a big factor in that semi-final win against Limerick, you know, and it probably went against them in the final. There's one other stat as well, is the tackles, and this includes pressures, which is, you know, you're forcing a player to turn back on himself. Against Limerick, Cork had 117, we call them tackles. Against Clare in the final, they had 78 over, I suppose, 90 minutes. So that's a huge difference in what I would consider work rate. They worked their socks off against Limerick. So for the neutral who, you know, as you say that, you know, I think Cork have their All Ireland final against Limerick, and I suppose, you know, looking at them numbers, probably in ways it says they did. Now, they were still in the game till the very end. You know, there was, I suppose, Clare only got 3 points was the maximum they got ahead of them when they did get ahead. I suppose credit to Cork, they did keep the fight up. But I think, you know, it probably were signs that Cork weren't at their best.
Des, get you in there. I suppose your reflections on that opening half.
Yeah, I suppose Kieran hit the nail on the head. I thought the similar with Cork. You know, I thought their work rate wasn't as strong as it was in again Limerick. You know, and that's probably, you know, they had the All Ireland already won before they went in. Not that they played well in ways, but I think they wanted a fancy, you know, game in regard of a lot of scoring, which there was. But I just thought Clare stuck in there well. They got a few scores when they especially the goal. You know, I think that was a Shane O'Donnell goal. He carried on, and I always say to the forwards, and when I'm with him, if you get that, there was probably an advantage for you. Try and bring it on and maybe get a goal out of it, you know, instead of just being happy enough to take the score. But I do think the puckouts, you know, they're a huge part of intercounty game now at the minute. And like, I think I seen a stat in the Sunday game was 14% to one of their long puckouts, 12 out of 14 that Clare won on the Cork long puckout. But I think Cork missed a trick in regard of, I seen the setup for Clare. I think they could have went short on a good few of the puckouts, and they should have varied. You know, Cork or Clare knew that long puckout doesn't always work. Like, it's, you know, it's kind of gone out of the game. Cork bring it back in again. Limerick in the semi-final probably worked for them, but I think they were ready for it. And you're putting the ball down on top of McInerney, Dermot Ryan, Conlon, like they're 6'2", 6'3". I think I would have been trying, you know, they tried a couple with Bart there to the sideline and that, but I think they should have varied their puck out more. I think they got the joy again. Limerick probably should have changed it up. And as Kieran would know, when you're doing analysis on Clare, they're probably the only team in Ireland at the minute that are pushing literally up on their men. They don't really allow, so there is scope then for longer puckouts where they're hit into space and stuff like that again at Clare, because they literally go man for man, and it's like that's why I knew going in Sunday it was going to be a high scoring game, because Clare just they want to play man on man. They're leaving themselves exposed, but at the other end they're able to get space then as well. So that's my synopsis. Is kind of, I think Clare done well to hang in, but I think Clare were the better team when they got into the game. I think the shots and that Clare looked a little bit more potent up front. You Declan Dalton not doing much. You Shane Barrett not doing much there after the first 15 minutes. Alan Connolly, was very poor. Brian Hayes done a bit. Horgan, I think it was the forward line with Cork in the final that they weren't, because it's like some of the backs in this Clare backs are given a job for a man. I hear Adam Hogan and Conor Lean on the ball, off the ball, or whatever it is, and the two of them are saying like to be tight on their men, and they had a man to mark, whereas that's kind of a little bit unusual in intercounty. There's space and there's zones and stuff like that, and lads are passing them off. But I think that's a good thing, and it's probably coming from Lone. He's old school in ways that you don't let your man score, and there wasn't. Sure, Horgan got 2, Hayes got 2, did he? Connolly got 2, none. Yeah. Barrett got 2. Dalton got none. Yeah. Harnedy got 4. But not a lot of, when you go to the other end, Tony Kelly won 4, Mark Rogers won 3, Shane O'Donnell 2 points, McCarthy won 3, won 4 from play. Like, that's where the difference was in the game.
And actually, Cork's scores 1-6 came from the half back line, so the scores were coming from further up the field.
Yeah, overall, I think midfield and half back line for Cork scored the same as their forward line from play combined. So that's very unusual, especially with Cork, where their forwards are scoring heavily all the time. Yeah, I just thought, did you think as well there was maybe what Cork thought worked against Limerick was going to work again against Clare? Like, they didn't really. It was like they didn't really, as you said, Des, they didn't really look at what might trouble Clare. They just thought, okay, well, if this can beat Limerick, it'll be Clare, and just lodge ball down top of the half back line. And when it didn't work, they didn't seem to have the plan B, because they went short to Sean O'Donoghue a couple of times, and then he just hit it straight away, which was basically the same thing. It was still ball dropping in the half back line. They never tried to work it out. And I suppose Cork were guilty the last few years of maybe overplaying sharp puck outs. Yeah. So you'd imagine that they'd have the experience of working the ball out, but they never really once tried to run the ball out of the back line. Instead, it was probably fear from what had happened maybe very early in the year. Instead, it was, a short puck out ended up being a long one, because once it went to full back line, they just launched it anyway. So it was strange that they never really tried to vary it, especially when it was obviously going wrong.
Yeah, and just when we played Cork in the league, the analysis was in front of us. They had 10 sometimes inside the 45 they had 8 and 10 inside the 45. They were playing really. They done it again in Limerick, I think, in the league. I always associate Cork, and I seen it when Wexford played them as well. Their variation of their puck out was you'd always be wondering what are they doing. And I just was listening to Mark Landers on the radio last week, and he said the long ball game is back in Cork. That kind of a way, and I think that's what went against Cork the weekend. As you said, Ruairi, they went short and then they just poked it long, which is worse than a puck out long as such, because there's just backs, or the lads are going back, and Sean O'Donoghue just has a kind of a lofted stroke. So I thought it was unusual that they had scope there, that Clare didn't know what to. If they went with, say, 8 players in their back line, they could have worked it up with a Darragh Fitzgibbon moving the ball or something like that. But there was they must have put 12 balls inside the Clare 45 in the first half, just straight down the middle.
But what I loved about the 1-to-1 defending, you were on about how many times did Conor Lean or Adam Hogan just get that flick when it looked like they never once let the Cork man gain possession and try and overturn them that way. It was, if they thought there was like a 20% chance of getting there was a flick coming in. Or even John Conlon with Shane Barrett a couple of times when he looked like he was beaten, he somehow just got the toe to Hurley to the ball, and suddenly Clare were winning the turnover then. It was just it was admirable, wasn't it, that they that, as you said, was old school in a way, but there were two cornerbacks going ball headed for it. And actually, once Conor Cleary got a yellow card and kind of stopped with kind of the messing with Alan Connolly, he hurled really well, I thought, when he couldn't afford another foul. He started to come into it as well that way. So it was.
So Cleary spends most of his time on yellow cards, so he's well used to it instead.
Yeah, but you'd wonder if he just maybe the next day maybe he should just get a yellow card after throw in, and because he seems to hurl better after he gets one. But so I just thought I was so impressed with that. Their timing of their flick or tackle or whatever you want to call it was just perfect. And it really kind of upset what Cork were trying to do, getting there, because as we said, they'd relied in on Tim O'Mahony, who got some great scores. Fitzgibbon, these boys like Mark Coleman as well came up for a few points. Another small thing as well, David Fitzgerald was dropping back deep, and obviously Coleman was told don't go past your 65 following him, because they didn't want to leave space in behind with O'Donnell and co there. So basically David Fitzgerald was unmarked for most of the game, and now he wasted as much ball as he did well with. He must have missed 1-4, 1-5, but Cork never once solved that. He was left basically unmarked. And the amount of times Clare had a ball and they looked up and they could just ping a ball to Fitzgerald, even on puckouts once or twice as well, because he had 20 yards of space all around him. And if he had used the ball a bit better, Clare would have got home. He's used to, even for Tony Kelly's great goal, he came in and kind of fumbled the ball, and Kelly happened to latch onto it just at the right time.
Well, it was very poor shooting, Rory. He definitely six wides, uncontested. They were very, very poor shooting.
But it was just still strange for Cork, because how dangerous he could be, and that Kelly goal did come off him. You could say still that they wouldn't pull a player back to mark him or do something, because I was just kind of thinking.
Just on that, just with Dave Fitzgerald, especially with Dalton, he played a lot. Dalton nearly should have held his wing in regard of, then he probably wouldn't have been Dalton must have been running around a bit too, they should have played a disciplined fella on that number 10 wing for Cork, that he didn't have that, especially if Coleman wasn't picking him up, because to me, you can't leave David Fitzgerald free, because he's more dangerous. He's not that, to me, he's not that handy if you're up on him. He's, he's fidgety, but if he gets the ball and he's moving forward, which Coleman was probably running back, he didn't even know where he was at times. As you said, he had to win. He probably was the losing of the game for Clare, himself and Aaron Shanahan, in regard of their chances to miss. Clare could have been well up, but I just think Cork should have put a number 10 and played him a disciplined role, that his job was to pick Fitzgerald up when he came back down the field.
Yeah, absolutely.
I agree. Yeah, because that's where he does his damage, is running from deep, and when he gets a gallop up, it's very hard to stop him.
Yeah. And there was another incident actually where he got to about the 20-yard line, and he just he was in 5 minds, and he just hit kind of a harmless shot wide. But he had 2 loose men. He had sucked in players. He had 2. I think Rogers was one of them. There was 2 Clare players. If he pinged the ball back across the square, there was another goal. So Cork, he could have done real damage. And I think Cork were lucky that he was that wasteful, because it was another kind of thing I thought Cork got wrong tactically, as well as the puckouts. That was one that really they kind of got away with slightly, but shouldn't have.
Second half, boys, do we want to talk about the goal chances for Clare that they converted? The goal chance, definitely, that Cork failed to convert with Hardiney. But maybe Rory, we'll start with yourself on the Clare goals. It was very tit for tat first 5-6 minutes of the half. And then Mark Rogers talked about the run game here, and it was a very impressive run here for Mark Rogers to really burst this game again, wide open again. I suppose get your thoughts on that goal.
Yeah, it was great, and possibly, I don't want to be too harsh on Cork, but it was a bit naive defending as well, that they've seen Rogers before, he does have a head for goal once he gets running towards goal, and when he cut back in and he's left, I think it was Mark Coleman just completely went the wrong way and left him that free shot in. Now, no taking anything away from Rogers. It was a purposeful run. He had sucked in 3 or 4 defenders, and that jink left created the space, and it was a goal that Clare needed at the time, because it kind of, for the first time, Clare went ahead by 2-3 points, and in an Ireland final, when you're chasing, which Cork were, it's a lot easier kind of have the lead. I know teams are coming back at you, then have to chase and keep looking up at the scoreboard and be down a point or down 2 points. But I came at a great time for Clare, 5-10 minutes into the second half. And then the Tony Kelly goal was just incredible. It was just one of those moments, I suppose, where just that his thought process is he's reacting instinctively to stuff that other people have to think about, I suppose, where he's coming in, he realizes he can't get a shot, he's cutting back, he's flicking inside, but he just seemed so calm. and everybody else around him is so frantic trying to get back in goal side, get a block, get a hook. And I suppose I remember before there was a clip of Brian O'Driscoll and how composed he was. I think it was against Wales, where he realised there was going to be a chink of space that nobody else could see coming and popped the pass just at the right time. It's kind of like that, where he realised that, you know, a gap might appear. And I suppose the really top players are probably, you know, they see things quicker than everybody else. And that's probably what gave him the opportunity to score. Because he said himself, when he first got the ball, there's 4 defenders between him and the goal, and there was no way he was thinking a goal. But as it opened up, he adapted. And that's the thing, I suppose, which other players don't have. Like, if a player has a goal or a point in mind, they end up doing everything they can to get that point or pass it off or win it free. Whereas he was just playing it as it was happening in front of him. And it was just a great goal. Like, it was, and again, the stadium rocked. Like, I think every neutral and everything was up on their feet as well. It was literally shaking. But at that stage, Cork responded again with 3 points. You know, so every time Clare did get a goal, the response from Cork was, you know, it was pretty good. They showed good character each time. But again, as I mentioned, they're chasing all the time and never really got ahead of Clare after that. The first Rodgers goal in the second half.
Yeah, and Kieran, get you in here. I mean, there was a glorious opportunity for Cork. I mean, we've talked about the run game not being really established by Cork, but the Seamus Hardney chance here, guys. I mean, for me, that's a big turning point in this All Ireland hurling final, really, with the scores so evenly matched. I mean, Kieran, from your perspective, hindsight's 50-50 here, but is it the wrong choice from Seamus Hardney to take the shot on?
Look, and I suppose, you know, later on in the game, Robbie O'Flynn, you know, to take that shot where he probably should have put over the bar, like, it's split-second decision, you know, and, you know, he had to go. Look, you probably couldn't hold it against him. I suppose if he went in, the advantage Cork, and, you know, they're probably on their way to winning. So, look, the good players, as Rory just summed it up there very well on Kelly's goal, the good players, I suppose they take the chance. I think they know when to go for it, or they know when to, you know, take the safe option and go for the point. And, you know, I suppose that's what Kelly does, and the likes of Kelly do very well. You know, Cork, I suppose, responded very well in that second half after both goals. I suppose, you know, they always got it back and pretty quick. But for me, I suppose there's one thing we would have criticised Clare on all through the year was on the sideline. And I think this time it was Cork. The sideline was too slow to react. You know, I actually have wrote down here, Declan Dalton, who didn't fire a shot all day, was taken off after 48 minutes. Ethan Toomey was in. That was a good call. But it was 64 minutes before the next substitute was made. Jack O'Connor came in for Connolly. 2 minutes later, Kingston for Barrett. At no stage were Cork, you know, too far behind. You know, I think had then subs come a bit quicker, like, and they're I suppose they're tried and tested subs. Like, you're not putting in young lads. You know, Kingston, Robbie O'Flynn, I think, is probably, you know, one of the best forwards in Cork. You know, I suppose just unlucky with injury. And even, you know, Luke Meade not coming in until the 85th minute. I suppose experienced guys that, you know, maybe could have been the difference. Had they seen action earlier, it could have been the difference. Just the fresh legs, you know, change it up a bit. And it could have been the difference. And I think Cork probably responded a bit too slow for me.
Yeah, Des, get you in here. I mean, if you were in the Cork sideline here, would you have made any other additional changes in that second half into extra time?
Yeah, look at I think Kieran hit the nail on the head there. Like, Conor Lehan is another one. You know, like, I would be a big fan of. I know he's both hot and cold as well, but I think Conor Lehan, a more composed player than a Jack O'Connor, didn't suit Adam Hogan or Conor Lean because he's just raw pace kind of a job, you know. Whereas Conor Lehan maybe could go centre forward and he can move around, and you know, he's more of a brain. So I think Conor Lehan definitely missed a trick on Conor Lehan. But just on the two player goals, like, I know Kelly's was probably the greatest goal I've ever seen live, but Jesus, you'd be giving out to club players for the defending on both goals. Like, Mark Rodgers is worse, but like, not a tackle in, not a, you know, like, if Tony Kelly, like, it's like Lionel, he watched a lot of soccer, and if Lionel Messi got the ball there, you know, you have to get to the main player, and when Tony Kelly gets that, I think when he's in track, he nearly has to be pulled down there. I know it's cynical, but when he gets that, he's the one player. You know, I don't think anybody on the Clare, you know, Mark Rodgers, a great goal, but I don't think anybody on the Clare team can do that. Even Shane O'Donnell can tap the ball twice over that head and do stuff. So I just think the Cork defending was really poor, and it's an old trait of Cork that their backline is a little bit nice in ways. Like Mark Coleman's, you know, Rory said, like, Mark Coleman made a token gesture, like, at Mark Rodgers. To me, he should have been hooked as well. He swinging off to get it. But I just think it was too slow on the line. There was too many of the forwards not going well enough from the first half, from well into around 10 minutes gone. Shane Barrett, Alan Connolly, Declan Dalton. I wouldn't be a fan of Declan Dalton. Not he's a decent player, but I think Cork forward line would be better with another player in there. He's grand again Limerick because maybe Limerick let don't follow their man, and he's allowed to go back deep and get on the ball, and the likes of Kyle Hayes they hold the position. That's fine. But with Clare, David McInerney was up his hole, you know what I mean. So there's not scope for Dalton in that. Whereas Robbie O'Flynn now will be offering a different perspective in regard of pace. Now the problem with Robbie O'Flynn is taking that shot on from 20 yards out. That he will do that because he's erratic, but he will make stupid shots, but he still can get you 3 or 4 points. So I think Cork should have made the changes there, but the Clare backline was definitely on top from 10-15 minutes gone in the match.
Definitely the half backline. I think that was the winner of the game for Clare. Was the half backline.
Yeah, we were just saying actually the semi-final was the first time because they had been in and out of form, especially Jeremy Ryan, and he was coming in against Kilkenny. I thought he had his best game. I suppose the All Ireland series in Munster, he was very hot and cold, and it was the first time really. And David McInerney, of course, ended up man of the match against Kilkenny. His first time to half back line, and John Hannon, who started the game poorly against Kilkenny, especially in possession, finishes strong as well. So in the second half, Kilkenny, that half back line kind of clicked, and all three of them are strong in the air, especially on the wings, Ryan. And I think it was the last 10 minutes of normal time where Cork had 3 or 4 balls in a row down on top of Dermot Ryan. He was just lapping them up. At a time where they probably should have a bit more composure themselves at it, but yeah, the half back line really stood up. They were like a wall, and as you pointed out earlier, Cork just kept hitting the ball down there, as opposed to trying to play a way of running through them or bypassing them or whatever it was. But yeah, the amount of ball that drops in the Clare half back line, it was probably in a way losing the game for Cork. And we keep going on about how Cork lost this game or whatever, but they were still only 1 point or whatever, from a replay. It was, well, in any other year, until a couple of years ago, would have been a replay. But again, they were just very close. But it didn't feel like that. I suppose at the time I kept thinking Clare were going to, that they looked like they had enough in general play, but for some reason, Cork kept sticking in there and Clare couldn't put them away either.
I think especially knows about Conlon, what is he, 35 and he lasted 90 minutes, and it's fair going for a guy that age, isn't it? I
think Cork put a lot of eggs in their basket that Barrett would run Conlon and go right through the middle there. And when that didn't happen, there didn't seem to be a plan B for it. So because there was an element of what worked against Limerick will work against Clare, but you have to, horses for courses, they really should have thought about this one a bit better, I think.
Yeah, and I think Cathal Malone as well. He hasn't been really talked about post-game, but I thought he did an absolute magnificent job in midfield, particularly with Dara Fitzgibbon, who was player of the year going into this. And I mean, I know he scored a few points, but like Tim O'Mahony really kind of stole headlines in that Cork midfield unit, but really showed Malone really kind of consolidating there for that Clare middle third. Thought he grew into the game as from minute 12 on, and I think for Cork to have won this, Fitzgibbon's run game would have been absolutely pivotal, and that was completely negated here, Des.
Yeah, with Dara Fitzgibbon is one of my favourite hurlers at the minute, but I think if you were playing against Cork, you have to give it yourself. Somebody has to give their game away to mark Dara Fitzgibbon. I said that last week because if Dara Fitzgibbon gets a score, he's sprinting 40 metres, 50 metres, he's getting an unreal score. He's coming off the shoulder, and the crowd for Cork is up then. So when he didn't score anything on, I think he might have got one on Cathal Malone, he got the other one, I think, centre forward. So Dara Fitzgibbon, you have to give yourself away. Somebody has to man mark him in the middle of the field. It's with Cathal Malone, he's a good athlete. He hasn't been hurling that well, I think, this year. But to have him in the middle of the field, he has legs to mark Dara Fitzgibbon. But Rory said about a point. If Dara Fitzgibbon had been let roam in regard of marking a Tony Kelly, he could have got 5 or 6 points and play. Tony Kelly could have done the same. But I think it suited Clare for Cathal Malone to give his game away. To make life really hard for Dara Fitzgibbon, because he's just a top player.
Just based on the semi-finals, was Ryan Taylor coming in, I was expecting a huge, but I don't think he had the same impact that he did in the semi-final. He was unbelievable ball of energy in the semi-final, but just didn't have the same impact, I suppose. Look, it's a tough turnaround. 12 months ago on the cruise ship, but I thought he was probably the ace card that Lohan had on the bench, but I don't think he turned out to be that way.
Yeah, the first one he got, he dropped short, didn't he? And he did get a point after that, but no, in terms of the amount of possessions he was on, I'd say he was on more against Kilkenny in about 5 minutes than he was. But look, that can happen. Midfield it is a tough place to come into because the game can bypass in midfield, and sometimes I think what shocked everyone was how quickly he was up to speed against Kilkenny and how quickly he just kind of got on the brakes and stuff. But it can be harder second time around. But look, Clare, he still probably was getting to breaks. Clare needed legs. One thing as well, I suppose a lot have said it, and Pat Ryan has come on about the extra time. I think of all games as well, like the day itself for the players is draining. The whole, the pageantry and all that stuff. There is more of a drain on players than on like your normal, like let's say first round of Munster Championship game or whatever it is. I just think like that in future, like I would actually agree with a replay, like they're amateur players. And also, I know it was hot, but it wasn't like you could have had a day there in July. It was 29, 30 degrees, and the players gone out again for another 20 minutes, like would have been. I just thought, I kind of thought that maybe from now on, go with the replay for All Ireland finals. Yeah, in particular, like it does. Even the fans, like the atmosphere for the first half extra time was weird. The fans were like drained and exhausted, let alone the players. Like the first few scores of the extra time were kind of, there wasn't even really cheers. It was kind of a clap. It was only in the second half people got their wind again and managed to go. And I think it was yourself, Kieran, said as well, even in terms of the referee, like as you were saying, Kieran, there's young lads who are struggling, like who have been training all year and doing all sorts of expert S&C conditioning, the whole lot to be able for it. And like we're expecting referees then to be able to keep up with them, which I think it's a tall order for referees to be able to do that.
Yeah, and to be fair to Johnny Murphy, I thought he had a superb game, but I think maybe the last 10, 12 minutes in extra time, he did receive that knock and he looked to have cramp as well. I mean, we're talking about player welfare, maybe the referee welfare as well here would be probably something that Jarlath Burns and GA HQ could maybe consider next year, because it is the showcase event of the hurling season. Like, I mean, all the social media commentary, particularly from across the border in the UK, was incredible. One game here, Des. I mean, would you agree? Maybe a replay would be the best outcome here?
Yeah, definitely. I thought myself, I didn't know. Like, one of my friends beside me said it's extra time. I thought I was going to replay, and I was happy enough to go to the match again in 3 weeks' time, whenever it was. So, as I wasn't supporting anybody. I kind of had a little bit of a soft spot for Clare, so. But I didn't want Cork to lose either in a way, So, yeah, I just think, like, we're talking about the older fellas. John Conlon didn't get a cramp. David McInerney didn't get a cramp. Patrick Horgan didn't get a cramp. I think it's a lot to do with the mentality of them lads in regard if that was another game for them, in regard if they're used to the big stage. It was probably more the younger guys where they're expending energy probably on the Friday and Saturday hitting the ball around and walking around, or probably at games and stuff where the likes of the Horgan has a child. I'm not sure about McInerney and Conlon, whether they have kids, but they're probably, and we're talking about 35-year-old. I played till I was 39 club hurling in Wexford, but from around 35 to 39, I had GPS and stuff, and I was probably as fit as I ever was in regard of, because you kind of know you're looking at. So I think with Conlon and Horgan and these lads, I think Horgan maybe is a little bit, but I think there's another year or two in maybe Conlon, because I was reading an article on him a couple of years ago, and I think I seen that he takes liquidizes a lot of his food. I think that's right, that he gets all his he makes sure that the nutrients he's getting are all 100% correct. And like, I didn't see him wilting the weekend, but I do think your question that you asked me, it has to go to replay. Do you know what I mean? It's just like the quality of hurling wasn't great in extra. You'd Shane O'Donnell blown trying to keep him on. He was cramping and going down 2 or 3 times. Johnny Murphy I knew he was going to blow it up quick because he was definitely on his last legs. The way he was. So it's just, I think, and everybody would have been happy, I think, and the GA would have been happy with another 20 million or whatever it was in the bank account.
Absolutely. Kieran, you'd agree with that as well, would you?
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, I think, and just as you mentioned, Johnny Murphy, I do think he had a good game. I think he's trending on Twitter there from the Cork crowd. But I think when you lose, you look for excuses. And look how many tugs of a jersey happen in a game. I'd say if you were to keep an eye on it, like, it just was just that that one that when it happened in the game, I suppose it's going to take traction. But I think overall he had a good game. He let it go. No yellow cards in 13 seconds, which is a change from the old Johnny Murphy. But I think he probably was a big factor in the game, that it was as good a game as it was.
Yeah, I thought some of the criticism for him not from like fans, like I'd have been, yourself when you see that picture going around, like the still image of the put, like if you were a fan, if it happened Clare, you'd be, you would, but for guys like Michael Dignan and Brian Gavin, who's, a referee himself, I thought their criticism was shocking. Like, he contributes a great game, and his use, I was giving out about the lack of frees. I think Clare got, was it 7 frees? Seven frees in the whole 100 minutes. And then 16, when you look back at the amount of times Clare got a score, and you can see him in the background giving advantage. So his use of advantage was brilliant. I made for the game the way it was. His reputation I'm living in Limerick. His reputation before was that, he was too fond of the whistle, like, and he'd ruin games by giving free. But this was like the complete opposite. Like even that last one, I don't know, would any ref, like, it was a quick tug of the jersey and the blind side of the ref. Like we could see it from the camera angle and so on when it was played back in replay in slow motion. But when you watch it first time round, it was an instant tug and let go. And like, I don't know how, if he's looking at it straight on, it's good cornerback play, like, because cornerbacks have to be they have to time it right and get their little, the dark arts or whatever it is, get that little tug and the little flick. Like that's what you'd be encouraging to, because if you don't, as a cornerback in modern hurling, the forwards are so good, you're going to be destroyed. If you can get away with it is the thing. And look, there was loads of incidents within a game, I suppose you could say. As he said, the Shanahan one was nearly a 2-point swing, because if Clare got that, there were 4 points up again with Shanahan and Downey, and he gives a free out. And that's where the goal incident, not the goal, but the incident with David McInerney came from. And that's probably the biggest mistake, maybe, is that Dave McInerney should have got a second yellow there, or black card, if it was deemed a black card one. But like that was probably the main one. I wouldn't really fault him for that last one, because, yeah, as I said, his angle is different to what we see in the camera. And it wasn't that he was pulling his jersey for 5 seconds. It was a quick grab and let go. But yeah, I was just disappointed with the guys that were like Michael Dignan, probably looking for a replay so he get more money in the commentary or whatever it was. Yeah, I just thought, but especially Brian Gavin being a referee and having to go with him for what everybody thought was a great refereing performance. Like,
what do you think, Des, going forward? Like, should Robbie O'Flynn still score? Should Robbie O'Flynn still be scoring? Like, I know the tug of jersey, but
even with Robbie O'Flynn, I think he didn't complain enough. Like, I think Johnny Murphy would have gave that free. He hit the ball wide. Horgan was the only one from behind at the forward line. He ran into Johnny Murphy. He was out 60 yards. Robbie O'Flynn went down to the ground. Like, if that had been me, I would have been in Johnny Murphy. He could have gave a free after that. But because Robbie O'Flynn was naive and he went to the ground and he didn't complain, and none of the other Cork forwards complained, it was only Horgan and like, he took him 5 seconds to get to Johnny Murphy. I didn't see any of the forward. They mustn't have seen it. As Rory said, they mustn't have. It was a blindside kind of a tug. But like with Johnny Murphy, like, we're going back to the Wexford against Clare game. He get fucking 2 yellow cards to Ruairi O'Connor, which like there was probably 10 or 12 of them on Sunday. Like, which I didn't see him as yellow cards. But like John Collins was the only one I thought was a very dangerous on Shane Barrett down the Cusick stand. That was Johnny Murphy. Now, some days could have put him off for that, because that was a reckless pull. I thought I agree that he done a really good job on Sunday. He let it go, but like that's the inconsistency. I think with Johnny Murphy is, if he's going to let it go, he's going to let it go, but then he has to let go in every game. It's not give stupid yellow cards where a lad is in, like Conor Cleary's one. Even as I said to my friend beside me, geez, he gave a yellow card for that. Any good cornerback is tugging a lad before it comes in. They have to be doing that in intercounty hurling now. You have to be grabbing the jersey before it's coming in and then let go. So to give a yellow card to Conor Cleary, that was harsh as well. Like,
no, great points there, guys. No, magnificent win for Clare. Congratulations to them. Commiserations to Cork. But I suppose we've seen kind of a nucleus of a side here for Cork, and I think Pat Ryan was fairly quick to kind of point that, hoping for better next year, but still a devastating blow for Cork, I would say, given the promise in the All Ireland semi-final. I suppose, guys, can we kind of switch on to kind of end of season accolades here? Team of the year. I don't know who wants to start off here. I mean, we've seen various teams of the year. Maybe Des might kick off with yourself first. in terms of a team of
Yeah,
the
I'm
year.
gonna have to look at my phone. I'm gonna have to look at my phone so I'll remember them all. But
No
it's,
worries.
I
Do you
suppose,
want to kick off anyway, Des, in terms of who you're...
yeah. I have I think I'm going to be similar to everybody. You know, probably there's 12 or 13 lads who I think they're automatic. So you just want me to name the 15 out?
Oh, fire away there, Des. Yep.
Yeah. So I had
We'll
Mickey
question it
Quaid
in
and
days
goal.
afterwards if we've any.
Yeah, right. No more. I'm not putting any Clare men now in that. That's it. This is no Clare men.
ABC.
I want to mess. But the goalie, I have Mickey Quaid. I've Conor Lean, right cornerback. Owen Downey, fullback. Adam Hogan, left cornerback. Dermot Ryan, Robert Downey, and David McInerney. Dara Fitzgibbon, Tony Kelly in the middle of the field. David Fitzgerald, right half forward. Shane Barrett, Seamus Harnedy, Aaron Gallan, Shane O'Donnell, and Mark Rogers was my 15. Now, I'm putting in Dermot Ryan in that. I really like Dermot Ryan. I haven't seen anybody with Dermot Ryan, but to me, if you were playing against Clare and see it against Wexford, he got 3 points against Wexford. He got 2 or 3 points against Kilkenny. He got 3 points in the final. And if he was any other halfback, he'd be getting an all-star in my book. And I'm seeing players, Kyle Hayes ahead of him in a lot of them, but I think Dermot Ryan has to get it. I think that's the only one that could probably be different, and he mightn't get one, but I think Dermot Ryan and I think Aaron Gallan, I think he was unplayable this year. I think he has to be on the team. They're probably only two that from teams I'm after seeing going around that are probably a little bit different than anybody else.
Cheers, Des. Rory, your team of the year?
Yeah, similar enough to Des. I have Nicky Quaid in goals, full back line, Adam Hogan, Owen Downey, Conor Lean. I have David McInerney, I have John Conlon in at 6, and Kyle Hayes at 7. Just based on what I saw in him in Munster, he was phenomenal, and he was being talked about hurler of the year. I know the All Ireland semi-final didn't go, but there was a tactical decision made to keep ball away from him. Now, still, Limerick should have adjusted there. Anyway, we'll move on. Fitzgibbon midfield. I have Keen Kenny in there. I just thought for
put him in there, please. You'll get a big head.
Kenny.
Don't put him in there.
Half forward line then, I have Tony Kelly based on the magic in the final, and I know people will say, oh well, he missed half the year, but he still won the All Ireland for Clare at the end of it. I have Rogers at 11, and I have Harnedy at 12. I have Gillan, Shane O'Donnell, and Brian Hayes.
Similar enough. I have a Dermot Ryan as well, Des, so it's been the same fan club. I've probably one in each line that you probably 50-50. I started off and I Quaid as well. I suppose the unanimous back three. Adam Hogan, Owen Downey, Conor Lean. I think Dan Marshy is probably lucky enough, and this no Limerick boys here, but just how versatile he is, and I think he's just so secure at full back. I've Kyle Hayes, Conlon, Dermot Ryan. Look, I think Hayes, you say, Roy, like it should have been a tactical change, but it just shows how good he is that if you have a team, I suppose, bringing tactic to take a wing back out of the game, I suppose it shows the influence he can have. I've Dara Fitzgibbon and Keen Kenny as well midfield. And I think Conor Burke is a note for Conor Burke there for Dublin. I think he did an unbelievable year for him.
Yeah.
But I think Keen Kenny was definitely one of the best Kilkenny players this year. I have Rogers, Barrett, and I've Hegarty. I thought Hegarty had a very, very good year. I suppose, look, it was a toss-up for me between him and Harnedy. But I think Hegarty was probably struggled in the last year or two for form since winning the Player of the Year. But I think this year he was fairly close to it. And for me, I had Shane O'Donnell, which probably stand out. I think Aidan McCarthy. I had Aidan McCarthy for forward. I think, like, definitely his free taking, I suppose, in a lot of games was flawless, like where other free takers were struggling. But just the scores he brought back every week. And, okay, he missed out one game, but I thought, the full forward line was a little bit weak for me this year. I think Brian Hayes hasn't done enough. He was good against Limerick, but he had a very poor final. And the last position, I'm going Horgan. I just think, while he's probably only hit a lot of frees, but a lot of them frees are, hard frees, and just, even that one to draw it up, like, just flawless, puts it over. And I think even looking back earlier in the year, that Clare game in Páirc Uí Chaoimh, like, he had a really good game that day, and, scored a great goal as well. So for me, Pat Horgan. I've no Tony Kelly, Roy. To me, you don't get the team of the year unless you play at least more than 3 matches.
Well, he did play 3 games.
Yeah.
He played.
Look, he had a very good final, but I call a spade. He was, in Kilkenny, that first half, he was anonymous. Like, he wasn't there at all. It was only the second half he kind of came to life. And the same notes for final. I think, he was coming back to form. He was coming back after an injury. That's, given. And I think it's the same for Fitzgerald. Like, Fitzgerald
very good start to the year, especially in the league. But he was struggling a bit for form for me.
Yeah, I don't have Fitzgerald in mind. No.
Yeah, Munster final, semi-final, and even in the final, like the shots he had, it should have been a higher conversion rate. So for me, that's why he's out. But that's my 15 anyway.
Yeah, I kind of agree with by and large with every one of you. I think the fullback, I think Dan Morrissey definitely had a very strong year at fullback. I mean, Downey as well has had a pretty stellar one. I suppose the Conor Burke one you've mentioned here, Kieran, for Dublin midfield, I thought he was outstanding for the games that I've seen him this year, particularly in Galway and Salthill. He ran the show. An honourable mention also to Lee Chin, I think, as well. I think he's had a great year for Wexford, particularly. I think at times, he really kind of led the line superbly well. Like Ruairi Connor MacDonald had chipped in, but I think Lee Chin could be thereabouts, and maybe Seamus Hardney as well at 12. I know he had a great duel with Dermot Ryan. I know it was a bit critical there about 20 minutes ago in terms of that goal chance, but at least he was kind of creating. He was looking to be the guy to create that goal scoring chance. So, yeah, I think in fairness, maybe the Brian Hayes ones might be the contention one here, because you say Aaron Gallan as well. But Aaron Gallan did only score as a 2-8 from play this year.
I think I don't see why Gallan is in conversation. Like, I think Gallan has had probably one of his worst years for Limerick. Semi-final aside, where he was incredible, but up to that, I think he really struggled. Definitely scoring from play, not as influential as he has been in other years. And for me, I just can't see why he's even been entertained in that conversation.
He's winning a lot. He's been fouled a lot though, especially against Clare at the Munster final. He was winning a lot of ball and being fouled. He would have scored a lot more from play. He's one of those guys, as you said earlier, that when he wins the ball and starts moving towards goal, you have to.
I think Conor Burke is. If I was picking it again, I'd probably put Conor Burke in the middle of the field, and I'd put Tony Kelly centre forward, and I'd take out Shane Barrett. I would. I think Conor Burke deserves one.
He was brilliant. He was brilliant this year.
He was, and I think he was in the top. I looked at the programme there for the semi-final. I think he had 18 points or something from play. And that's playing from centre, or 118. I think he scored a goal again. He scored a goal again, Kilkenny, in the drawn match up in Parnell Park.
Yeah,
remember he soloed up the pitch and got a return pass. Yeah. So I think Conor Burke probably deserves an All-Star. They went okay again Cork, and he got 5 points I think from play in the quarter final. So like we're on about. I think the forward line has been the poorest line in years. Like it's because I'm picking Definitely. Shane Barrett on the guard of maybe a couple. We were going on Kyle Hayes. You take out the semi-final from Kyle Hayes, he didn't play well. Limerick didn't. They had only 2 or 3 games. Was it then? 4 games. Like he didn't do a lot in a couple of them. Like there's not that many. Like Tony Kelly played 3 games, but I think 3 games is enough to win you an All-Star now. I think 3 games by what he done in the final, semi-final, and if we're going back to King Kenny, I think King Kenny went completely missing for Kilkenny.
When Taylor came on, was it?
Yeah, 15 minutes, 20 minutes, but I didn't see King Kenny in that second.
Up until then he had an excellent first half, but he did go out of it at the end of the game. Yeah, it's true. Like we're kind of making arguments for certain guys that are on. Nobody really. There's a lot of guys who'd never really nailed down a place this year, did they? That you can make arguments for a lot.
I think Shane O'Donnell is the only
one.
I think the only one.
Yeah, and Rogers maybe as well, but still Rogers did goal at the time.
Yeah.
Des, can we get your verdict on the hurler of the year and young hurler of the year?
I think Shane O'Donnell is hurler of the year. I don't think there's anyone really competing with him on that. I just think from every game I've seen Shane O'Donnell, and I had my doubts about him maybe 4 or 5 years ago in regard of, I was thinking his hurling is not like a Tony Kelly, for instance, he's not as slick in regard of, but I think this year his effectiveness in winning ball, getting Clare back in the All Ireland final. He was talking during the week there, just listening the last few days with a grade 1 hamstring strain. He let Barrett off, remember, in the first half, but he still was able to come back there and score 2 points when Clare were down by 7. He set up the goal. That playing Clare back into the game. He didn't do much after that, but I just think he was the only one that was able to grab the game by the scruff of the neck and get him back into the game. So to me, there's no competition for hurler of the year. I'm going to go with Mark Rogers. I think Downey will probably get it in regard of Downey will probably get it, but I just think Mark Rogers this year, he's so dangerous. And I even see again Wexford. I don't think he scored again Wexford, but he's just so dangerous. I said to my friend, I'm going to back him for the first goal score because even last year against Kilkenny, I think he had 2 or 3 goal chances and he missed the goal, whatever. But I just think he's so busy, and regard of he's getting 3 points, 4 points, 5 points, and I think alongside of Kelly and O'Donnell, they've another forward to worry about now in regard of Rodgers, because even though he's small, he's very powerful and stocky. And I think that's one of the things that hindered Cork the weekend. The 2 lads in the half-hour line, 5'8", I think Rodgers is, and I think Reedy's only 5'6". But when they were 2 of them playing in a half-hour line for Clare, again Downey and these kind of lads who were 6'4", so I think that caused Cork huge problems in regard of Clare wasn't bombing balls then. But I just think Mark Rodgers had a phenomenal year, and I think there's more to come from him.
Good stuff, Des. Rory, get your winners here for Young Hurler and Hurler of the Year.
Yeah, I'll go with Shane O'Donnell, Hurler of the Year, and I don't think I need to give too much explanation there. Now, question: Conor Lean, does he qualify as Young Hurler of the Year? He was born in that. I'm not sure exactly where the cutoff is. He's born in 2002. Is it under 21 thing? What, they never say exactly what the age. Because if not, I'd agree with Des there, or even Adam Hogan, again superb. But Conor Lean, if he qualifies, it would be my Hurler of the Year, Young Hurler of the Year. Sorry,
Kieran.
Shane O'Donnell, Hurler of the Year. I think the only game he didn't perform was the Munster final, and it was probably no fault of his own. I think the supply wasn't going into him. And my young player of the year is Rodgers as well. He's incredible. Like, just what his second year, he's established himself, and I think he's definitely got a huge player for Clare going forward. Like, he's not big in stature, but he's able to win his own ball. And I think I go back to that Munster final. Like, he was one of the only ones who was trying to dig Clare back into it, and he scored 1-4 against Cork earlier in the year. Scored 1-3 again last weekend in the final, and like, even the goal he scored, 90% of players in that position he would have put the ball over the bar. But the confidence he had in himself to take it on, beat 3 defenders and score, incredible. And he's going to be huge for Clare in the future.
Yeah, no, I'd agree with you on Shane O'Donnell. I think all bets are off there in terms of that decision. I think he's been a standout throughout the year. I would go Conor Lean. I think if you're basing it purely on Rookie of the Year, like he's come on.
He actually qualifies. I just Googled there, so he does qualify for it. So yeah.
The first time I've seen him was against Laura Currafin in a Munster intermediate hurling semi-final, and I swear to God, he did give an exhibition on the day, and I kind of was like, oh well, we'll have a look out for this guy. And certainly, I mean, maybe a slow burn during the season, but by God, mid-season when he was given the call up, he took it with both hands, didn't he, guys? So I think Conor Lean would be a very well-deserving winner here. But as you say, Downey as well might be a strong contender. I suppose one high, one low from the year, Des, intercounty boys.
Well, the high for me is individual or team, or which do you want me to go on this?
Oh, anything at all, Des, to be fair.
No, the high point, I think, it's just been Tony Kelly's goal to me is the high. To be there and see something like that, I don't remember I'm going to hurling matches for 40 years, and I don't remember something in regard of thinking what the hell is after happening there. I don't have that moment in regard of it's normally a team thing, and it was just unreal. So I think Tony Kelly's one. I'll always remember that, and when I think of that All Ireland final in 30 years' time, you'll forget probably 90% of the scores in the match, but I won't forget that score. The low, I go with Wexford again, Antrim. I think Keith said it there. Yeah, I think Keith said it there. We were doing an up for the match on Saturday night for a fundraiser in a local club, and he said that was the longest journey ever coming back from Belfast, and and we knew going up it was going to be tough in Belfast, but around 50 minutes gone, I think it was tougher than I was beside Kieran, and I was thinking to myself, this is not going to, because I could see the crowd in Antrim and the way they get going, and they got behind and stuff.
They were building, yeah.
Yeah, they were building. So I just think Antrim, I don't remember a low, I lost club Leinster titles and stuff as player and county finals and whatever, but I don't remember lows being, I'm only over teams a couple of years, but that one was particularly low because you're seeing Galway next week in the championship and you're thinking, Jesus Christ, we could be going into relegation or, relegation dogfight again. And that was the worry, when you have Galway and Kilkenny to come after Antrim. So to beat Galway the next week next week was a very sweet moment for the year as well. But the low was Antrim.
Yeah.
No brainer there. Kieran, get one high, one low from the intercounty season from you.
I think overall, I think Offaly coming back to the Liam McCarthy. I think, I suppose we've been following this young team, the 20s team now over the last couple of years, and I think they've some standout players, unbelievable players. Screeney obviously is the household name, but I think Dan Burke is going to be huge, into the future. I think hurling needs Offaly back, and I think definitely Leinster needs Offaly back as well. And I think they proved this year that they can be competitive, and obviously they look to build in that next year. Dan Raven, who was another standout player underage that was injured for the best part this year, so getting him back as well next year, he'll be added to that cause. And I think that's definitely the high point for me. A low, I think overall, it's probably the standard of refereeing. I think is look, it's never been great, but I think it's dropped another level this year. There's been a lot of big moments, where bad decisions have been made, and they're impacting games, and like players and back rooms and all. They're putting huge time and effort in, and it's probably not fair on the people putting the effort in. Look, I know referees don't go out to make decisions and cost teams, but I suppose I think it's something that the GA needs to start looking at. There's just one too many every year, and they're big talking points. I know we're talking with Johnny Murphy, and I suppose that's small in the grand scheme of things. But like, I think you go back to that Wexford Kilkenny game where Liam Gordon gave a penalty, and it was 2 yards outside the line. So I don't know, is video technology the answer, or to me, I think a referee behind each goal, as an umpire, just because a lot of the big calls happen, inside the 45, and I think a referee either side is probably something that you probably should look at. But it's disheartening, I suppose, when you're going to players are putting everything into games, and one or two bad decisions hampers the team, and I suppose it can knock a team out, and that's the reality of it. But I think for me, that's been a frustrating part of this year.
Rory, yourself, I think we know where the high is going, but any lows from you this year?
Yeah, I suppose the low for me was Galway. The way kind of Henry Shefflin's reign as manager kind of ended with his team kind of going out in a whimper. We associate Galway as kind of being a swashbuckling kind of team, and in the last couple of years, especially 2 years ago, they gave Limerick a real game up in Croke Park, and that was Henry's first year there, and you're thinking Galway are only going to get better, but as we know, they're a difficult bunch up there. To like previous reputations have gone up there and have come down, wondering what the hell. And it's just a kind of a pity for Henry, and also for some of the players in there as well, like the likes of Dahi Burke and all that. It this year was such a disaster for them, and so they were my low of the championship, and of course the high, just not even the Kelly goal, but just the whole game itself up, and it's just some occasion and the speed we forget sometimes again, and it's just probably good to finish on this, but the effort the players put in, and sure you know as well, like from being involved with intercounty sort of, it is phenomenal, and all really for the entertainment, in one way for the pride of the county and the whole lot, but for the entertainment they're giving us, it's incredible stuff. Like there's nothing else matches it, and you can only but give the 100% respect to what they're doing, and you just hope, like sometimes as well, that maybe when we think about things in February, March and league games and all that kind of stuff, that and people are being very critical over a league performance that goes wrong and this and that, but the effort that what they're giving to the game, I don't think they're getting anything in return in terms of, and it's something I suppose GA are going to have to look into. The more money the GA are bringing in, that keep these guys looked after, because what they're giving us is something special.
We're talking about the players putting in, but I think Wexford got something like 60 tickets for intercounty, 38 players on the squad. I think they got 60 tickets for All Ireland final tickets.
Mm-hmm. And then you'd clubs up and down the country raffling off tickets, like.
Yeah, 38 players for 60 tickets, like, who have trained since last November. Like, at least they should be getting 2 tickets each. It's absolutely ridiculous that, an intercounty team that could have been, like, we were drawing with Clare at half time, and then a lot of them are not even able to go and see a match two games later, like not able to bring their partners or not able to bring somebody to the game, like, which is a joke, like, because all intercounty players, there's only 10 intercounty hurling teams really. Like, you're talking about 38 tickets, 380 tickets by 2 is 760 or something. It's not a huge amount of tickets for an intercounty player to get, like.
And when you see the breakdown, 770 tickets go to past presidents of the GAA.
Yeah.
You know, so it's definitely
Wouldn't
it's
60
all
do them? Wouldn't 60 do them
Yeah.
now? And then the 780 for the intercounty players.
Yeah, 100%.
You know,
Yeah. Absolutely.
Small thing.
Yeah, a small thing is right, but it'd be a huge gesture. I suppose my high for the year, we're going to UPMC Nolan Park, the minor All Ireland final, and that Tipperary minor performance down to 13 players early, the guts, determination. It was just incredible on the day. Really showed the fighting spirit of Tipperary, and I suppose the low really is how do we really develop the game? You know, we've had an epic All Ireland series and championship. It just feels, you know, we're a little bit shortchanged. We're on the 24th of July as we record this. It's a long winter ahead. I suppose, how do we kind of galvanise the game here? You know, the tightened intercounty schedule. I know club championships, I know down in Wexford's already kicked off. But how do we galvanise this? We've heard an awful lot from GAHQ in terms of the football committee with Jim Gavin, implementing some new rules and all this sort of stuff. Can we see the same with the hurling? So I think should be a close watch, hopefully. And hopefully the relevant media sources will start raising questions here to GAHQ in terms of the promotion of the game, because the global stage that last Sunday had was just incredible. I think just the social media trends on this game, there has to be some sort of attraction here or some additional incentive here from GAHQ to really kind of market our game in the right way. I suppose, guys, we leave it there. This is the final episode of the intercounty season. I'd like to thank Des tonight for coming on. Des, thanks very much and well done on a great year. And I know club championship is already on in Wexford, so best wishes there anyway.
Yeah, and it's a bit of a disaster because you're getting back. We're in the middle of we have a split season down here, so we've 2 games of hurling, and then we've 3 weeks off. So we're a junior A football team, but they're deciding that they like the football down here now, and you've kind of no access to them for a couple of weeks properly, which is I'm from a hurling club only in Owler, so it's very hard, you know, and I agree with you in regard what the hell you got like with Wexford hurling down here the way it is. I can just see a scatter of injuries in regard of there's going to be 1 or 2 of our intercounty players. Most of them are dual players in regard of senior football, senior hurling, and if we get 1 or 2 injuries in Wexford, like we're in big trouble. You know what I mean? So that's what I'm going to see. That's what's going to, I think, happen in Wexford now. It's hard when you're over a club senior team and you've nothing. You can't prepare for a game nearly 3 weeks. You've 2 weeks where you're looking at football and trying to, you know.
Des, you're looking for excuses already. Yeah.
No, but and you can't even go out of the championship. Never was until the 22nd of September. So I don't even know what it is at the minute.
We got beaten in the final last year, so there's only one way we can go.
That's it.
Yeah, there's only one way I can go in our game is if I don't win the county final and being lambasted. So I don't have much of a scope there.
But no, best wishes, Des, anyway, when the championship returns anyway. Many thanks there. I suppose we have to thank the many guests that have come on this year, guys. Start with Niall O'Mara, Saoirse Bulfin, a good friend of ours, appointed as the new Westmeath senior hurling manager. We wish him well. The upcoming season, we had Dave Clohessy on. We had also Keith Roster on, obviously. Kieran Fraggy Murphy last week on the All Ireland preview show, and we had you on tonight, so many thanks. And also to Simon Stokes and to James Mulcair, who contributed to it here. But this podcast can't be possible. Well, the 2 gentlemen that I'm talking to here, Kieran Collins and Ruairi Walsh, lads, week in, week out, you've been absolutely sensational with your insights, your analytical knowledge of the game. I've never met so much expertise anyway, so many thanks for your time, lads. And yeah, look, we may come back later on in the year when county finals maybe are fast approaching, but until then, guys, I suppose we can rest up anyway, reflect on a great intercounty season, and yeah, we'll talk to you soon. All the best.
Thanks, Mark.
Thanks, Mark.
Thanks very much.
Thank you for listening to this podcast episode. If you liked what you heard in this podcast, why not subscribe to the Hawkeye Psychic podcast on either Amazon, Spotify, YouTube or Twitter platforms. You can also follow me at Hawkeye Psychic on Facebook and Twitter for the latest sporting opinions, articles and reports.